Welcome to Nordic Battery Thursdays. My name is Benedicte Waaler. I work at Innovation Norway and will be your host today, stepping in for my colleague Nora Rosenberg-Grubek, who is on maternity leave but will be back soon. Nordic Battery Thursdays is organized by the 3 investment and trade promotion agencies with the expert help of the European Battery Alliance and with the support of Nordic Innovation. We are doing this on behalf of the whole battery ecosystem in the Nordics and all who want to join us in our strive to develop the most sustainable battery value chain in the world. We firmly believe that the Nordics, with our combined industrial strengths and our focus on social and environmental sustainability, has the potential to become the first truly sustainable circular battery ecosystem in the world. Together we can push the envelope and enable the radical changes we need. Today we will showcase this cooperation on several levels. First, the Norwegian Deputy Minister of Industry will talk about the need for Nordic collaboration. The Nordic Trade and Investment Agencies will discuss how we are organizing the collaboration. We will hear from Nordic Innovation on cooperation on one very important part of the value chain. And our municipalities will then discuss how they operationalize these government strategies and how they work together to learn. And finally, we will hear from 3 battery expats from different corners of the world on how they have experienced coming to the Nordics, our work culture, our nature, and the growing battery ecosystem. But first, Deputy Minister of Industry, Jannicke Andreassen on Nordic collaboration.
Dear everyone, thank you for the possibility to say a few words at this event, and thank you for bringing battery enthusiasts together with Nordic Battery Thursdays. It's a great initiative. Working together across the private and public sector and across borders is key to speeding up the green transition. Our common goal is clear: to build a sustainable economy for the future. A future where green solutions and profitable businesses go hand in hand. And batteries play an important part in this equation. Batteries and the development of a complete battery value chain represent a great potential for Norway and the Nordic countries. By joining forces, we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions and create new and green jobs in the battery industry. A win-win situation. In a very short time, the Norwegian government will launch its battery strategy. The overall goal is to facilitate large-scale battery production in Norway. The strategy will tell you more about how we will address this and make it happen. In short, we want to develop infrastructure and partnerships that unite reducing emissions and green value creation from an emerging battery industry. In Norway, 98% of all electricity comes from renewable sources, and we are home to primary producers of many raw materials used in batteries. By taking advantage of this, we can contribute to making the battery industry even greener. A close cooperation across the Nordic countries will strengthen our chances of success. The Nordic countries have different strengths that complement each other. By working together, the Nordic countries, can become key players in the European battery industry. Norway shares the EU's high ambitions on creating a vertically integrated battery industry. In line with the EU Green Deal, the aspiration is that batteries and their components will be reduced or recycled indefinitely, and thereby securing that critical raw materials remain in Europe, enabling a more circular economy. Norway is well equipped to play an important part in this development, and we are ready to contribute, together with the other Nordic countries. I look forward to a continuous close cooperation with all of you on making the Nordic countries key players in the European battery scene. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. Yesterday, many of us attended EVS 35 in Oslo, the world's largest electric vehicle conference, and the battery ecosystem was one of the main themes. I have with me today two people who were on stage. Welcome, Jessica Olsson from Business Sweden and Thore Sekkenes from the European Battery Alliance. Thore, you moderated the battery session, 1.5 hours of battery keynotes and panels, and Jessica participated in one of the panels. What were your main takeaways?
Well, very many to begin with, but if I comment the topic of the EVS 35, of course I have to comment EVs, and a standing impression is that there is no doubt that we are the shift to EVs has happened. If you haven't understood that now it has. There's a multitude of EVs, but that's not all. There are also electric trucks, there are light vehicles, scooters, last mile vehicles, and so it has happened already. That's the first impression. Second impression on the topic of the fair is charging. Charging has been raised as a hurdle, as the last hurdle, and there's a multitude of solutions just implement. Maybe you want to comment on that?
Yes, I agree with you that the EVs are, the electrification has succeeded. It's here to stay. We still need to work on it. And now, just as an example, today we have engineers working at the OEMs, and they have never worked with a combustion engine. They have only worked with electrical vehicles. I find that fascinating. And concerning charging, yes, it is decisive. And we have done a lot for EVs, for the personal vehicles, but now we need it for the heavy vehicles, for the trucks as well, and it is decisive. And for that, I think a third thing is the non-traditional partnerships that are happening all the time right now, because we can't do it. The value chain is really in transformation. So the non-traditional partnership, I think, is also decisive for this.
And examples of such non-traditional partnerships, do you have any?
Yes, you have, for example, how the OEMs and the battery production companies, or the charging infrastructure, or the energy companies, or the TCOs work together with the former cable producers or product companies who are now all are moving to transport as a service. And to get that and to get there, we need to work in very different ways. But that's also uncertain times. So we need to take some risks and really get into it.
Thore?
Then, if I raise the perspective a little bit, the feelings I got in these few days that we met, I would like to raise the following. First, the optimism. If I compare with earlier years, I've been in this for some years now. The optimism, the willingness to boldly change and to challenge, that has become normal now, so to say. And this is a prerequisite to get this epic transition done. So that is very positive. Second one I need to raise is, of course, the obvious strength in the Nordics. I think that will be the topic of these few hours. So I won't comment that more. And thirdly, I would also like to raise, I phrase it like this: do more performance with less material. And this ties in with raw materials. It ties in with the research that is being done on how to do this more efficiently. So I think those are the three feelings I felt in the...
And I think all that the two of you are saying also highlights the need for the Nordic collaboration, the broad ecosystem partnerships, and also the research and development needed to do more with less.
Definitely. Maybe you want to comment?
Yes, yeah, and I also got the feeling from the EVS 35. I mean, it's a global thing, and we need to work globally. So I was so happy to see physically again so many colleagues also from throughout the world within the electrification, and more with less. Yes, definitely. We have the opportunity now to do it in a way that we impact for sustainability, and then sustainability for the environment, and it has to be financial sustainable, but also social. And I think we are getting in that direction. And I also heard that, well, stop talking about value chains. Let's talk about value circles.
Yeah.
And I think that goes in very much to this. And the value circle from cradle to cradle, the key things.
Beautiful. And I'd also like to say that the Finnish minister had a brilliant comment. He said, we wanted to work together to enable the green shift, but now we also need to do the same things because of energy security and other issues. So the motivation is just even stronger now, I find. Thore, you have some central issues that you almost always bring up.
Yes.
How did you feel them developing?
Well, I state them once again: raw materials, recycling, and competence. These are perhaps the three most important subjects. And I feel more and more companies are starting to talk about exactly these topics.
And after the conference, we also held what the Swedish call after work. I realize that's a Swedish word, not an English word, at the Norwegian pavilion for all the Nordics and all of those who wanted to come and meet us. Because collaboration is not just about seminars and reports. We need to bring people together, and that's what we did. And we're also planning a common Nordic pavilion at the battery show in Stuttgart at the end of this month, in 2 weeks. And we'll have a similar mingling event, and you're all welcome to join us. But we didn't just talk yesterday, we also watched, because the Nordic Battery Collaborators have been working together on a joint value proposition, and we will showcase it here. Show film.
Yesterday's transport and energy production methods will not sustain our planet for tomorrow. So today, we must act. Change is imperative if we are going to meet the ambitious and necessary targets set out by the European Union. While we know the challenges are vast, and no one country, company, or individual can do it all, we can do it if we embrace a new normal. We can reach the EU's 2030 goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and keep the global temperature increase below 2 degrees Celsius. It is also possible to reach the 2050 EU goal of being climate neutral, of being an economy with net zero greenhouse gas emissions. The road to success will be defined by innovative collaboration. By building cross-border partnerships, international expertise networks, and localized production hubs, we can deliver commercial prosperity and meet critical sustainability targets. Now, Finland, Norway, and Sweden are working together to accelerate and revolutionize battery production with the Nordic Battery Collaboration, a Nordic ecosystem that is actively bringing together international resources, skills, knowledge, investment, and materials needed for sustainable battery production at scale. An ecosystem that is powered by green and affordable energy, that is commercially advantageous, and setting a new global standard. But the Nordic Battery Collaboration is more than the Nordics. It can also be your launchpad to future competitiveness. In a time where traditional industries are being redefined and new value chains are emerging, the Nordics are breaking new ground with a blueprint for the future of industrial collaboration. The Nordic Battery Collaboration leverages the collective transparency, trust, and history of sustainable thinking to drive systematic change, to respond to evolving consumer demands, producer requirements, and EU and global sustainability legislation. The responsibility for change lies with us all, and the time to act is now. Join us to create a future that will support your growth ambitions and generations to come.
I hope you enjoyed the film. We are lucky enough to have joined forces with Nordic Innovation. Håkan Lind, Head of Sustainable Minerals at Nordic Innovation, could you please tell us a little bit about what Nordic Innovation does, who you are, what your goals are, and how your initiative ties in with the Nordic Battery Collaboration?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm glad to do that. Yes, my name is Håkan Lind, and I'm here from Nordic Innovation, which is a part of the Nordic Council of Ministers. And the Nordic Council of Ministers is the official body for Nordic collaboration among the Nordic political level. In 2030, the vision is that the Nordic region will become the most sustainable and integrated region in the world. And that's a vision that came from our prime ministers in 2019. And in total in the Nordic Council of Ministers, we're 11 organizations that are striving to make this vision real. We are Nordic Innovation with a focus on businesses, where we try to promote innovation, entrepreneurship, and competitiveness among the companies in the Nordic region. To realize this vision, the Nordic different ministers in different thematic areas came with different packages of actions. And the Nordic ministers for trade and industry came with 8 initiatives to boost after the pandemic, to boost the recovery after that. And I'm proud to lead the Sustainable Mineral Initiative. Yes, and the mineral field, why is that important to the Nordic collaboration? We have a long and vast tradition in producing and processing minerals and metals. We've also started an ambitious journey towards reduced environmental and climate impact, which I think is a global issue. On top of that, we have the ongoing green transition. Many people say that we need to start the green transition, but we need to continue it since it's already started. And with that, the need for metals and minerals will be higher than ever going forward. And in our Nordic region, we have a bedrock that is quite unique. It's comparable to the bedrock in Canada and in the US. And we can support more or less all the materials needed by the European Union for the green transition. The green transition is important, and we need to stay on top of the materials to be able to cope with for the growth and employment, because we don't want to lose out on that with the automobile industry, for example. A lot of the value will be the battery going forward, which is highlighted in this initiative. In our region, we have high sustainability and ethic and environmental standards that doesn't really get the value that it needs to get, and that's what we try to highlight. And in our program that relates to why we are financing this initiative and happy to be part of this, we have 4 different action areas. First of all, it's the Nordic Critical Raw Material Resilience that we launched last year, which highlights what raw materials which will be needed for the future. On top of that, we have traceability and recovery and recycling, where we're formulating our initiatives going forward right now. And the last one is awareness, which is why we're happy to be here today. We really need to raise awareness for this.
And we'd like to help you do that, or cooperate with you in doing that. Thank you, Håkan. And I'd also like to remind our viewers that we will host a Nordic Battery Thursdays dedicated to minerals this autumn, and we might see Håkan again then.
Thank you very much.
And now we would like to show you a short film from Sweden as we transition into our next segment, the Municipality Sofa. Enjoy, and we will be right back. And thank you, Sweden. Making room for new industry is about creating the right environment, not only for the businesses, but for the people as well, the people coming to work there and their families. A forward-leaning municipality is worth its weight in gold for the business sector, and we see that our battery industry thrives in the right municipalities. And that is why the next point on our agenda is the Municipality Sofa. And with us, we are lucky enough to have Ilka von Dalwigk, Policy Manager of InnoEnergy, as moderator of this session. Ilka, the sofa is yours.
Thank you, Benedicte, for having me here. And I'm very pleased to have 5 municipalities from 3 different countries with me today. And I would like to hear from you what they have learned, how they cooperate, if they're already doing it, and what they can learn from each other, and how they see on the battery sector the developments for the future, and how we can even be better as a Nordic country region together. So, first off, I would like to welcome Anja Palm, who is Head of Trade and Business Development of the Skellefteå Municipality. I think Skellefteå is known to everyone as the home of Northvolt's first gigafactory. And I think a lot of people want to know, actually, how did you succeed to land Northvolt in your city? Anja, please tell us about it.
Yes, hello. Thank you. Well, basically, we got the natural resources. We had the land that was needed, renewable energy. So those were the two main factors. But of course, Northvolt has also described that they met a forward-leaning municipality that was eager to work together with Northvolt, and we understood that for them to succeed, and it's such a massive investment, we as a city also have to make big investments and planning for a rapid growth. And that's what we've been working on for the few years, and we're not done yet, so we got plenty of work. But I think we have a great collaboration between Northvolt and the municipality of Skellefteå, that we understand that both of us has to succeed, and it will be good for everyone.
That's very interesting. What has been your greatest learnings in this process from this first decision to establish the Northvolt factory there, and now they're actually building it? They want to employ thousands of people that are going to work there. I mean, it's people, it's infrastructure, it's schools. Can you tell us a little bit about the learnings in this process, and also what is in it for you in sharing some of this experience with other municipalities?
Yes, and I think one of the things that we understood, but maybe not understood fully, was the importance of flexibility. This is a huge startup company, and the private sector can always work so much faster than the public sector. So as a public sector and a municipality, we have to be flexible. We have to understand that the prognosis will be changing, sometimes only within a few months. There will be new numbers on how big this will be. And for us to be planning for new housing, for new schools, we need to find like a risk balance on how to go forward. But so to be flexible would be one of the big learnings. And of course, if we could turn back time, it would be great if we would have even more houses being built. This year, 1,000 houses will be built in Skellefteå, which is very much sort of. But of course, it would have been better if we would be even quicker, even though I would say that we've been quite quick in this necessary decisions. There's been investments in building new schools, building new port, working with the airport, logistics. There are so many parts of growing a whole community. And regarding learning from others, beginning of when this started in 2017, we didn't really find any place in the Nordics that we could learn from. So we actually made a journey to Reno in Nevada, where Tesla and Panasonic built their gigafactory. And now we can see there are so many places in the Nordics that are going through the same journey, and that really strengthens the battery value chain and the political awareness that this is a new industry that we have to work on together. We've been welcoming plenty of visitors coming to Skellefteå in the same way as we went to Reno. And also the questions that we get from other municipalities helps us to understand what we're going through and what we need to do further on.
Thank you, Anja. I would now like to ask Marko Kuokkanen, who is Sales and Marketing Director at GigaVaasa in Finland. Vaasa is known as a quite well-established energy cluster already. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you have been working to actually create this, I don't know to call it project, GigaVaasa, that is also been a good example, I think, on creating a thriving ecosystem around the topic?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a fantastic, let's say, topic, and I think all started something like year 2016 when Vaasa realized that okay, the world is changing and it's going to get towards EVs and the batteries will be required, and Vaasa has a very strong energy cluster, and of course companies like ABB and Wärtsilä they have created a lot of spin-offs, and all these companies they require batteries, and actually Northvolt was also, let's say, helping us further, because then we realized that what are the requirements to develop this kind of, let's say, the sustainable battery manufacturing area, and of course, it's not like running like 100 meters in a competition. This is more like a long distance, let's say, competition. So it requires a lot of investments, and those are now ongoing. And it seems so that the need is such huge that let's say that the future looks very bright, I would say.
Yeah. I only can concur to that. And I know your colleague Rita Björkenheim, she expressed that she had a vision or a dream that the Nordic countries together can develop into something that will enable a career path within the battery industry, which I think it's a very nice idea, really. But can you elaborate a little bit more how you municipalities can contribute to this vision?
Yeah, I would go, let's say, a little bit backwards to, let's say, the time before the pandemic, because on those days we were, let's say, traveling a lot in Asia and China, South Korea and Japan, and then we really realized that how small, let's say, that the Nordics are, and let's say that on that time we started to have an idea that if we could, let's say, cooperate together, we would be like a bigger area and easier to attract, let's say, talents from the Asia. Because let's say that if you are just a small municipality somewhere, it might be hard to, let's say, to get the experts. But if you are, let's say, working together, because anyway, between Norway, Sweden, Finland, we are very close by, very short distances. So it would be, let's say, easier to attract these new talents.
Yeah, I completely agree. But what do you think makes the Nordic countries really attractive? What is this Nordic uniqueness or selling point that will attract talents from Asia or other continents really to look not only to I think, German with their industry, but really to decide, like, well, let's go to the Nordics and establish ourselves and our families here?
Yeah, I think we have a very ambitious target now to create the most sustainable, let's say, the battery industry area, let's say, for the whole world. And I think if the people want to share our vision about, let's say, the green future, I think our target is really, really right. And I think this is something, because it's quite unique, the way of living in Nordics. And I think we are on the right path, and this is the right way to continue.
Most definitely. Now I want to go back to Norway. Ole Kolstad is Managing Director at Rana Municipality. Mo i Rana is an area where Freyr decided to establish a battery factory, and they are planning to hiring about 2,000 people. So I think you're, in a way, making the same journey as Anja did in Skellefteå. Maybe you can tell me more about the development of your role as well as a business developer.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Mo i Rana is a proud host municipality for Freyr Battery, as you say, and they will build several factories in the city of Mo i Rana, close to the Arctic Circle. We have been facilitating a lot of local input to Freyr's business prospects since 2018. Now we see a change where we also have to develop our own role, where it's not only about facilitating the business prospects, but also how should the society as such be the best host society for the industry, for the newcomers, for thousands of new inhabitants. And that challenge our role, and we have to make progress in very many fields now.
What about this Nordic cooperation? I think we're talking about this Nordic battery belt in sometimes, but also the cooperation between the municipalities. Is there something that you think will develop organically by talking to each other as we are doing now, or does this need to be a more structured process? Maybe you can just shortly elaborate on that.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you to Skellefteå. They shared some input, some info with us in 2019, and we had contact with them some occasions. And also we have a common project today with both Skellefteå and Vaasa about raw materials and logistics. That gives us an arena to cooperate, but I think it's also possible to develop this further, and I think Innovation Norway, Business Finland, Business Sweden is doing a great job now to strengthen this cooperation. But I think it's also maybe a need for structuring this cooperation a little bit more, because we have so many challenges in the years to come regarding competence building, research and development, logistics, and so on. So there's a lot of tasks to move on with together.
Yeah, that I can agree. That is still an enormous amount of tasks to go forward. I would actually like to ask Joel, who is investment advisor, automotive and cleantech in the business region of Göteborg. Göteborg has a long industrial history, and now Northvolt announced that they want to establish another gigafactory in your region. Can you tell a little bit more about your experience on working environments with international cooperation, people, families living there, Joel?
Absolutely. Business Region Gothenburg has worked for a long time with attracting international and supporting the companies in our region to attract international people for our companies as competence. And we started a project a couple of years ago, since there is always a need for new competence. And we also discovered in that project that a lot of people move away when not the partner of finding a job or in the region and so forth. So what we have started is a project called Move to Gothenburg, and now also International House, where we try to both use that as a platform for attracting internationals to come here, but also to support with knowledge and networks for the families, and all to support the process. And this is something that we started before we even got this battery factory. So this is more for the traditional industry, which we have, of course, a large amount of as well. We have the automotive industry, but we also have the chemistry industry. And of course, we see a future where we have reskilling from people, but we're also attracting people from other parts and try to support the establishment of Northvolt and Volvo Cars in their cell manufacturing in Gothenburg.
Thank you, Joel. I think another region where we have already an established industry, going back to Norway, which is not so far away from Oslo and has a lot of shared history, I would say, is around the municipality of Arendal. Welcome, Kåre Andersen, your business development manager. What is your take on having already an established industry? How do you make actually room for a new industry such as the battery industry to get attractive to move to a region?
Thank you for having me. Arendal Municipality is located about 260 kilometers south of Oslo, about 3 hours drive with car. We are about 46,000 inhabitants, but you reach about 360,000 people in 1 hour driving distance. We are located in the middle of the battery coast, close to the European continent. We have a long tradition of working with the process industry. Arendal is hosting the ADE cluster with members such as Glencore, Elkem, and Battery Norway is a child of that cluster. The founder of Battery Norway has an office next to mine. We have said that we want to be a partner with Morrow and to be a good host for the company to work on the logistics with land, infrastructure, and transport. When we offered 1 million square meters of land to Morrow, we believed it was enough. But now we see that we need a lot more in order to make room for the whole ecosystem, suppliers upstream, as well as recycling. So we have now started zoning more land. We create a material park, the Green Industrial Park in the Battery Coast, with a total area of 3.4 million square meters. We also need to facilitate more housing. That is a big challenge, and we are looking for good models for rental units, for example. That is a common challenge for many of the battery municipalities. We are also working on Welcome Hub, Agder, because it's not enough to have a place to live and a place to work. We need to be able to accommodate spouses and children. They need jobs, schooling, meaningful work. We need to be able to, we are working to mobilize the whole community, the volunteers and the organizations, such as sports club, cultural associations, and other international offers in our region. And we also expand our international school. And then I come to the second question. The Nordics need to work together to position the Nordics as an alternative to Spain, Poland, and other European countries and regions. How can we convince the large multinationals that the Nordics are good countries to do business in? That this is a great place to live. 5 municipalities are meeting here today. We have a lot to learn from each other. For example, best practice on accommodation experts. And we have a lot that we need to do together. If Nordic Battery Collaboration and EMEA could facilitate creating arenas for sharing knowledge and for learning, that would be very useful. Thank you.
And I think we have learned a lot from all the different municipalities. They have similar challenges, what I heard. It's a very complex part and a heavy responsibility for you. And I think we can do much better all together by cooperating even stronger together. Now we are going to look at a short film from Finland. Please have a look. Thank you.
Electrification is revolutionizing mobility in a way we've never seen before. From vehicles to heavy machinery, mining and maritime, everything will soon run on electricity. Finland is a European leader in battery manufacturing. We have the unique combination of rich natural resources, high-ranking universities and exceptional competence in manufacturing. This makes Finland one of the few countries in the world that can manage the whole value chain, from mineral extraction to recycling. The Finnish company JOT Automation offers industry-leading solutions for automated battery assembly and testing. Their mission is to bring speed, precision and scalability to every battery assembly line.
We need to speed up battery manufacturing for this massive demand for the next 5 years by shortening the supply chain and improving the quality. And we can help in that by automation so that production is efficient anywhere in the world.
Proventure Test Solutions specializes in electric vehicle testing facilities. Their modular testing laboratories are easy to transport and assemble on site, saving valuable time for the manufacturer.
We don't know what the testing requirements are going to be for the next 5 to 10 years. It's important that you can upgrade and increase your testing capacity based on what is the actual need.
So why Finland? Finland is a leading country in the European battery industry. We have a safe, stable society with transparent legislation. Our value chain creates efficient, sustainable and powerful solutions that push electrification further. We believe in world-changing ideas and turning them into global success stories. Finland works for us. Now let it work for you. Business Finland, world ideas.
Thank you, Finland. And thank you to Ilka, Anja, Ole, Joel, Thore and Marko from our municipalities. The municipalities talked about what they do to accommodate the new battery industry. including welcoming and hosting people coming from abroad to work in this industry, because we need to attract not only foreign capital, but also foreign competence to our region. And we will now talk to 3 such expats on how they have experienced working in the Nordics. Obinna Egwu Eleri from Nigeria, working at Beyonder in Stavanger, Norway. Sofia Hernandez from Mexico, now at Northvolt in Stockholm, Sweden. And Achim Behr from Germany, now at Hitachi Energy Systems in Vaasa, Finland. Obinna, you arrived in Norway in 2007, doing a master's in petroleum engineering, started at Beyonder 2019, and are now an industrial PhD student. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came to enter the Nordic battery industry and what you have experienced here, both on the professional and personal level?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Obinna. I am an industrial PhD student in Beyonder. So I came into Norway in 2017, as a master's student in petroleum engineering. My background is in chemical engineering from Nigeria, and so I came in originally with the intention of working in the oil industry as a petroleum engineer, especially with the expertise Norway has in offshore. But then the crash of the oil market and then the unstable situation in the oil industry back then prompted me to look for other alternatives. And then during my master's thesis, I saw a topic at Beyonder where I was to work with activated carbon development for use in lithium-ion capacitors. And that was how I switched to working in the battery industry. So after the thesis, I continued as an R&D engineer with Beyonder, and then now I'm doing my industrial PhD with them as well. So it's been a very wonderful experience coming here and making the switch when I did from being oil and gas focused into renewables now and championing the clean initiative. So it's been a wonderful experience here in Norway, and the work environment and the nature and everything in general. Thank you.
Thank you, Obinna. Sofia, you are originally from Mexico and arrived in Stockholm last year to work at Northvolt. Could you tell us a little bit about what made you come here and how it has been so far?
Yes, of course. Yeah. Thank you for having me, first of all. I've been working in the automotive business for almost 9 years, always in Mexico. And I started asking myself, like, okay, this is the automotive business, but it's changing. So who is making this change? Who are the actual game changers? And I mean, being in Mexico, US is extremely close, and Tesla is all over the news all the time for different reasons. And I started looking for, okay, Tesla, but I wanted to see beyond that. So who else is doing this? And I started digging, my wife and myself, we started reviewing this, and then we found out Nordic. And it's been a great challenge and a great experience. First, moving from Mexico to Sweden, different culture, different weather, you can imagine. So there's been a lot of the learning curve in all of the areas, but Sweden as a country and Stockholm specifically is a really good place. So a lot of cultural, a lot of people from everywhere, and it's really been super open. All the team in Nordic, they're always with a smile on the face. They're always willing to explain, willing to share the learning, which I think is one of the greatest strengths in this company. One of the topics that I really like here is they give you not only the company, but the countries to be yourself, and also not only to take, but also to give. And I'm pretty happy on this. And one of the good things that I've learned is that I can also share my Mexican culture. And being in the company with a lot of cultures, we're actually doing like monthly dinners when we go to have some tacos in a Mexican restaurant, or to have Brazilian food, because we have a lot of Brazilians. So yeah, I think everything it's super good. And it's been a challenge to adapt for the weather, especially in the winter, but it really makes you believe that you have a place here and you can also make a difference.
That is wonderful to hear, and I could just tell the audience that I've spoken to these three beforehand, and I found it very inspiring, and it's also very good to hear the Nordics described from the outside. Now, Achim, you are originally from Germany, arrived in Finland 24 years ago, planned to stay for 2 years, but you're still here. Could you tell us a little bit about when you started to really understand Finland, how you cracked the cultural code?
Yeah, hello from Finland here. That was a nice question, actually, Benedicte. And as you mentioned, I came here to Vaasa with a 2 years contract in my pocket. And the reason for that was simply my Finnish wife I met in Germany at the time. So she started to miss Finland at a certain point so hard, so that we thought, why not give it a try and go on a little 2-year adventure to Finland. And so everything started basically. And now after 24 years living and working here, I can say probably that understanding the Finland and the culture wasn't a sudden point in time for me like, okay, now I understand. It has actually more been a process for me, still ongoing. And learning the Finnish language played a big part, at least for me, in understanding and, as you said, cracking the cultural code. And this actually sounds everything completely possible and positive. If I may just add a probable downside in Finland, that we stay on a realistic base, a probable downside may probably be the million mosquitoes in your backyard during the summer. And some speeding tickets also. They are, in Finland at least, salary dependent.
Thank you. The mosquitoes we can't do much about, but talking to you, I remember you said that the most wonderful thing about Finland was going out into the forest after it had rained, that it was so fresh. It's like breathing in life, and I thought that was wonderful because we have. I think the Nordics share a love of nature, and when you come to the Nordics, maybe you start to understand why we love nature and start seeing it in a different way yourself. But Sofia, you also had a very interesting observation when we talked earlier. You mentioned that the sense of safety was a characteristic of the Nordics that we didn't really think much over, but that you did. Could you expand on that?
Yes, of course. I think, as you mentioned, sometimes when you are in one place for a long time, or even you're born here, there are some topics that you take it for granted. But coming from the outside as an external person, when the first thing that we notice is the safety. So even if you go in the winter, when we have the sunset at 3 p.m. and then it's completely dark for more than 12 hours, you can go outside and you can go to run and to have some running, to have beat in the nature, and you're safe. So I think that's something that some people, I don't know if they are taking it for granted, but it really makes a difference for the ones that we didn't grow up in that environment. So I think that's one of the key points for the Nordics.
Yes, and it's something we often forget to think over because we take it for granted. Obinna, I would like to ask you, you've been watching the webinar, and we talked a little bit about how GigaVaasa has this vision of being able to have a whole career path in the Nordics, in the battery industry. And when you came here, there really wasn't much battery industry. So what developments have you seen since you entered our industry? And what do you think it means for people coming here?
Yes, I think it's a very, very exciting time to be in the Nordic region right now. Because I remember when I first came in 2017, there was not so much talk about any battery initiative, or I don't think there was any huge news about batteries being the main focus as it is right now. And then even as of 2019, when I had finished my master's, I think in Norway it was majorly beyond that, and the other stories were just in the starting phase. So, but right now, you can imagine I joined Beyond when we were just 8 I was the 8th person when I joined Beyonder, and now we are more than 80 employees at Beyonder. So that is a very huge change. And if you think about the battery industries now you have Freja up north, you have Muro batteries, and then in Sweden you have Notvolt and so many other establishments coming up. So it's a very, very exciting time to be part of this battery movement as well. And there's a whole lot of opportunities in here, and there's lots of focus being placed on competence down. The University of Stavanger has a new bachelor's in battery and energy technology, and they have so many other establishments and training institutes coming up. Beyonder is also establishing something like that in the battery center. So it's a very, very exciting period, and I'm so glad that I made the switch when I made the switch.
And we are glad you did too. Achim, you work in the largest energy cluster in Finland, and you're a manager. What changes do you see in job applicants? I mean, what are their priorities? Because we're now talking to two quite young people who see the battery industry as a very important enabler for change. What do you see from your position?
Okay, what I noticed actually is that the younger generation nowadays is more interested in the meaning of the work than in the salary. Of course, salary is one important part. You have to have money. But applicants usually ask, for example, kind of, how does your company contribute to the planet? How you are involved in that? How do you see the future? And we didn't ask that 20 years ago. I hadn't that things in mind 20 years ago. So in this, I see a really very positive trend here.
Mm. And we also heard Sofia said that when she was looking really around the whole world, she was thinking, who is making a positive change? Where can I be part of the change? And I think Obinna also described Beyonder as kind of like a shining light, And I hope and think that maybe the Nordic focus on sustainability, both social and environmental, and our love of nature, it's kind of natural for us to try to take care of the earth, that these things kind of come together, the values of the industry and of the people coming to work here. And I find that very inspiring. I've loved talking to all of you, and I would like to thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you very much.
We're very proud of the work-life balance in the Nordics. We try to see the whole person and the family. We try to have open doors, and we have, the CEO sits down with people around lunch, not necessarily other C-suites. Sustainability, taking care of the planet is quite central to us. And I think also if you don't already like spending time in nature, if you come to the Nordics and try to get to know us, you will learn to like spending time in nature, because we will drag you into it. And on the downsides, the Nordics, we can be a bit shy. I think I talked to Obinna about how if you go hiking in the mountains, everyone says hi to you. And that's probably quite strange, because if you're walking around the city, they don't. But we are a bit shy. It can get cold and dark, but the people warm up, saunas warm up, and I think also a lot of you coming from other countries help us to warm up. And I think Achim also said that I have changed, but I think also I have changed the Finns around me a little bit, as we get this collaboration. And that's extremely positive. I would like to thank you, and I would like to thank our whole audience for having joined us today. Going forward, we have 2 more webinars and a live event. The Nordic Battery Collaboration will be at the Battery Show in Stuttgart, June 27th through 30th, and we will, like I said, have 2 more webinars this autumn. We hope to see you there. And to wrap up, we have one last battery film. This one is from Norway. Thank you and goodbye.